it's looking like there's a bit of a storm brewing between the US government and the UK government. This is all to do with freedom of speech and Donald Trump's tariffs. Anyhow, before we get into that, please take a moment and let's get a message from our video sponsors, Small Debts. If you have an issue getting your rent deposit repatriated to you from a previous landlord, or you've bought something and been scammed online and you just need some assistance, check them out.
To get your security deposit back or dealing with unfair charges? At Small Debts, our tenant advocate service fights to get your money back. No stress, no hassle. Take control today. Visit smalldebts.co.uk and start your case now.
So there you have it, smalldebts.co.uk. Their information will be in the description. Just click the link, look them up, see if they can help you. So, back to the matter at hand. I recently noticed that there's a growing story about the tariffs coming from the US being dangled as the stick to, as some would say, interfere in British politics. This kind of has been showing its colours from about the end of last summer-ish, and we're about to start a new summer, and it's coming full circle. So there's been issues, definitely in Europe, to do with freedom of speech. I think it's much more challenging in Germany and other parts of Europe. J.D. Vance made a speech some weeks back, and, well, it kind of shocked a lot of the European leaders, and he was critical about the direction of freedom of speech in the UK and Europe. He feels, and a lot of Americans are starting to feel, that things are getting a bit too draconian, if that's the right word. The traditional freedom of speech that we've all enjoyed for many, many generations, or some will say it's starting to ebb away. And there's been a lot of criticism of the Labour government since they've taken power and how they've handled the same said subject, freedom of speech. We're going to have a look at the way it's been tackled on this LBC story, and I'm sure it'll kind of highlight the whole matter.
Now, let's go live to Washington, where our correspondent Simon Marks has been taking the temperature. Simon, this is a very strange case because in one sense it is just a provocation. It's one bit of the State Department suddenly tweeting something. But in the context where everybody is waiting with genuine worry about coming tariffs, America has massive, massive leverage. And there seems a kind of insouciance or, relaxed nature about how they're going to impose their views on us.
Yeah, I mean, I think Andrew Aggie was citing parliamentarians in London there who were saying that this is abnormal, but it may become the new normal, heralded as it was by the speech that Vice President J.D. Vance made several weeks ago at the Munich Security Conference that stunned European officials that were present as he excoriated the continent for allowing backsliding on freedom of speech. There is no indication coming out of the embassy here, which of course has been...
Now, I'd just like to add, I don't think this is going to go away. I actually believe this is just the beginning of this subject and what could turn into a fairly large international global blow-up.
Absolutely intimately involved with ongoing conversations between Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, and officials here in the United States about whether the United Kingdom is going to escape the worst of Donald Trump's planned United States tariffs. No indication that this case has come up, but it is extraordinary to learn that US officials from that State Department bureau that focuses on democracy, human rights and labor, and traditionally has focused on countries like Russia, Belarus, Iran, North Korea, places where freedom of speech really is buttoned up. It is extraordinary that officials from that bureau met with Miss Tosici Bolt in the UK prior to this statement being put out over that bureau's social media feeds. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also voiced concern, particularly
See, I don't find it that shocking. If you're going to suddenly start pulling people up and using the law to shut people down and criminally charge them for posting things that clearly, for most people, will come under the terms of freedom of speech and expression, I think it's something to watch and a cause concern for some of us over here in the UK.
About freedom of speech in the UK. He actually did it in a very little noticed moment during that extraordinary Oval Office bust-up between Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And it is indicative of a Trump administration that feels absolutely emboldened to criticize Western European allies for issues pertaining to freedom of speech that the United States would never have even vaguely considered raising before.
It seems to me almost as if the State Department is taking dictation from J.D. Vance, who is absolutely, as is his right, a devout...
I'll jump in again. Another thing I'd say, I don't think it's in any way shocking or hypocritical or America stepping out of their lane, because for decades, Western governments have interfered, voiced their opinion, and stepped into how other countries have, done their thing, particularly where freedom of speech and human rights is concerned. So what's probably strange, amusing to some, is the fact that two allied nations, such as the US, biggest power on the planet, some would say, and the UK with its, historical position within this whole kind of global power arena. The fact that one country is criticizing one of its allies, such a big subject like this, it's just probably the sign of the times. I don't think there's anything wrong or unusual about it. Surprising, maybe. Unusual, no.
Roman Catholic and has strong views on abortion. Again, completely his right. As it happens, Jonathan Reynolds, our trade negotiator, is also a devout Christian. But, this is a matter not just of tact, but of sovereignty. I mean, these are matters for us. How we police places like abortion clinics, how we deal with free speech.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think we should have thought of that when we were stepping into other countries' politics and telling them what to do.
In public is a matter for us, not for the Americans. And, I think a lot of people here are just beginning to be a bit narked. Do you really think that this is the next 4 years for us?
Well, I think it might be. I mean, I think if you're narked now by this, imagine how narked people are going to be if the Trump administration at some point decides to wade in on the issue of Tommy Robinson, which is perfectly possible in the course of the weeks and months.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of outside lane subject. We've kind of been there with that one already. I think he's trying to revive it. Maybe it could come around again, but there's many other current subjects that the US could, highlight if they really want to make something large out of this UK's freedom of speech and, sort of the constraints and the way they're sort of coming down on people with a heavy hand.
Ahead. This is not, I think, simply about efforts to fuel the anti-abortion movement in the UK. I think this is a much broader approach from this administration. I'm sure we're going to hear J.D. Vance before long weighing in about the plight of Marine Le Pen in France, for example, after she was effectively sidelined from running in that.
Okay. At this point, we can kind of take it back a bit. As you mentioned, abortion. And on this particular subject, I think this is what's causing a lot of the, whatever you describe it as, and what's bringing this thing to the forefront. Check this one out.
We also know that there have been infringements on free speech.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time.
Holy moly.
What price freedom? Turns out the Trump administration are keen to tie tariffs to freedom of speech in Britain. The self-appointed freedom fighters in the White House now using economic warfare, or something close to it, to strong-arm British lawmakers to what? I mean, take their responsibility to freedom of expression seriously? I don't know. The US State Department issued an extraordinary statement saying that it was, quote, concerned about freedom of expression in the United Kingdom in relation to the case of an anti-abortion campaigner. It said it was monitoring the case of Livia Tosika-Bolt, who is being prosecuted for holding a sign near a Bournemouth abortion clinic reading, "Here to talk if you want." She's on trial at Poole Magistrates Court last month, accused of breaching the public space.
See, on this one, I kind of think they are dancing around the edge slightly when it comes to the abortion clinics and, you know, standing outside with paraphernalia, which could make somebody, you know, change their mind or not. I kind of think if you've made up your mind with something as serious as that, having people outside trying to divert your attention and, you know, kind of get you to see it from their point of view, probably not the time and place to be getting involved. Making it an illegal act, I'm not sure about that.
His protection order on 2 days in March last year, 2 years ago actually, March 2023. Doesn't time fly? With the verdict set to be given later on this week. She has said in a statement that peaceful expression is a fundamental right. No one should be criminalized for harmless offers to converse. She added, "It is tragic to see that the increase of censorship in this country has made the US feel it has to remind us of our shared values and basic civil liberties." The law says this. The law on buffer zones as abortion clinics says this. It is an offence for someone to, within this area, do anything that intentionally or recklessly influences someone's decision to use abortion services, obstructs them, or causes harassment, alarm, or distress to someone using or working at the premises. Now, I've never been to an abortion clinic. I've obviously never needed to go to an abortion clinic myself, so I don't know what it might do to you to see someone holding up a sign as you walk into the abortion clinic. Very difficult decision that you may have made or not, doesn't matter really, but holding up a sign saying, "Here to talk if you want," as you head in to make this decision about your own body, which, by the way, I hope it goes without saying, but by the way, I think it is absolutely your right and should be your right to make that decision. But we have your right to make that decision and this lady's right to freedom of expression, and the two seem now to be in some conflict, certainly according to the Americans. Let's put to one side for a bit the apparent infringements on rights to freedom of expression in America that are being clamped down by the Trump administration, as we heard from Simon on American Week last week. Let's put that to one side for a moment. If you support the right to abortion, as I do, it's obviously a bit of a weird thing to me to go and stand in the neighbourhood of an abortion clinic and aggressively or otherwise try and exert influence over those people walking in. But is this type of influencing so aggressive or so horrible as to need to be made illegal? Is the Trump administration, to your mind, exporting a kind of American culture war, certainly an American moral war or religious crusade? Are they exporting it into Britain and possibly charging you a pretty penny through tariffs for the privilege? Or do they have a point? Do they have a point of saying, actually, the rights of your decision to have an abortion that are butting up against the rights of someone's ability to express their view about that decision, actually, there is too much weight placed on?
Therein lies the question. Does the US have the right to interfere in what we do over here in the UK, our politics, and how we police the population and the legal system? Obviously, this is part of the ever-growing culture wars, and I'm sure we're going to see more of this as time flies and time moves on. So probably this is something we should brace ourselves to get used to. In the meantime, I'd like to say, as per usual, Be good, be safe, and be creative if you can. For now, myself, Owen Uadje, here at CornerSpeak. Till next time, we out.